What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. Recap with Mo, where we getting ready to get down into another episode breakdown of the average Joe, all right? But before we get into this, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit and that's going down right here, all right? So the episode that we're going to talk about tonight is titled The Bachelor in Paradise, all right? So the synopsis for this episode states that Joe, Leon, Cathy, and Touch dispose of the dead Russians' bodies. Then another mob, henchman, comes looking for them. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so this episode as well starts off with another back scene that gives us a little bit more of information on the character Touch. Now, remember in the previous episode, when he received the money from Joe, he went to this person's house. Now, we did not know specifically who that person was, but at least we know the name that was on the envelope that he placed on there, and it stated Donna. All right, so he places that envelope into their mailbox. But on this recap right here, he goes back to a time when he's in a bed with this woman, I'm assuming it's his wife, and his daughter comes in and she picks up his GUN, and he has it on the side there and she picks it up. I don't know why it's not on safety. I don't know any of that shit, but we just know that someone ended up getting shot. So I'm assuming that, his wife was unalived in that situation, okay? So going on from there, we get back up to speed into the present, where we now see him actually waking up from his long night slumber when he was supposed to be over there with Leon and Joe getting rid of, the mobsters or whatnot, but he did not do that because he was in this long slumber, and that's all I'm going to say in this situation. So anyhow, he wakes up and he notices on his cell phone that he has right in front of him that it shows that he has 20 notifications either from Joe as well as Leon, right? Because they wanted to know where your ass at. Like, in order for us to get this plan going in the right direction, you're going to have to follow through on the shit that you said you were going to do, Touch. Unfortunately, you on cloud 9 right now, and we back on Earth, and we need you to, catch up with us, right? So anyhow, that's what it was. It is what it is. Unfortunately, that plan has fallen through. We need to come up with something different. So anyhow, we head back over to Joe's house, where we see both Jennifer and Angie going back and forth. Now, Jennifer is torn up because of, the whole situation that went down with Dimitri. That's her boyfriend. Now, from what I understood, that they had not been together that long. Now, her mom, Angie, is like, look, it's cool, you're going to have to trust your dad. Jennifer is like, no, he hated Dimitri from the very beginning. He wanted to kill him. And she was like, look, he had to him because he was going to do something to your dad. She was like, no, he hated him and he wanted to kill him. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And then she ends up cussing in front of her mom. Now, I'm from the generation, all right? I'm not old, but I'm not super, super young either. But I'm from the generation where children, if you're younger than your parents, I'm from that generation where you just did not do that. You can have your opinion, but what you're not going to do is disrespect your parent. And right here, you see Angie pretty much tell her, no, you're not going to cuss in my house. Old girl ends up cussing again. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, where is the respect? And I can get off on a whole tangent on this situation, so I'm going to immediately get off. But where in the hell is the respect for young children when it comes to their parents? All right? Because I'm definitely not going for that in my household, under my roof. If that's what you want to go with, then do, each his own. But for me, you definitely not doing that in my house. I don't care how emotional you are. You're going to have to deal with something else. Anyhow... So anyhow, Joe comes back in, and he comes in with this whole sweaty t-shirt on, and Angie's like, what the hell is going on? And he was like, well, I had to move the bodies from the van, and I had to clean it or whatnot. So Jennifer looking at him, and she's looking at him with the look of disgust on her face. And then he was like, yeah, the bodies were leaking or whatnot. And Jennifer like, so my boyfriend Dimitri's body was leaking. And he was like, listen, sweetheart. She was like, don't call me no sweetheart. I'm no longer your sweetheart. And he was like, look, Dimitri only got close to you so he can get close to me. She didn't want to hear that. She didn't want to hear that shit. She was like, look, I ain't trying to hear all of that. He was like, look at my freaking hand. My hand didn't end up like this for no damn reason. And then she storms out like she don't believe the shit. Hold on, wait a minute. Who's the parent here? I would ask your ass to march right back over here real quick and let's deal with this situation. What you're not going to do is just storm out like you own shit. Because you can storm out the door. You look like you old enough to storm out the door. That's you look like you ready. So anyhow, he said if I did not do what I did to him, he was going to come for you and your mother. All right? So, let her deal with it, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Let her have her opinion because she's still like, you killed him. Okay? Did you not understand what he just said, Jennifer? He just stated that if he did not kill him, he was going to kill your ass. And you wouldn't even be on this emotional roller coaster that you on right now with that Vivian Green, all right? So listen, you got to calm down. Mind your emotions. I get it. But shit, he saved your life, all right? So anyhow, going on from there, once Jennifer leaves, Angie has to get it in check. Like, I need to know what's really going on now that she's gone. Pretty much just tell me what really truly happened. He was like, Angie, I told you what happened. I told you exactly how it went down. She was like, it sounds crazy. He was like, well, it sounds crazy, but that's exactly what happened. And he was like, she was like, there's no way in the world. Like, so your daddy, stole $10 million and he says in a Lamborghini. She was like, oh yeah, in a Lamborghini. So I'm just supposed to believe all of that shit. He was like, yeah, it went down exactly how I told you. In the meantime, while they're still in the midst of their, conversation right there, a car pulls up outside. So of course, Joe has to look out the window. It just so happens to be Cathy and his best friend Leon. So when they pull up, Leon's on the passenger side. Cathy is the one driving, calm, cool, and collected. She steps up out the car. Joe meets her outside, and he's trying to see what's going on. So he heads outside, and he's like, hey, what's going on? What brings you guys around here, right? Nervously, right? And she's like, are you effing kidding me right now? So she takes him to the back of her trunk in that old station wagon and whatnot, opens the window up in the back because that's how they used to open up, y'all, just in case you didn't know. And when she opened it up, she pulled the bag back, so old boy with a hole, in the back, clean through his head, right? So Joe's like, shit, like, what's going on? So anyhow, she's coming up to Joe like, this man came over to my crib and tried to kill both of us, all right? So you need to let me know what's going on. And he was like, why did you do this? She was like, look, this is not the day. This ain't the day you want to come for me. And I believe Joe needs to sit his ass down right now because she ain't the one to mess with on all this, because she's going to do anything she can possibly to make sure she stays up out of this clean and clear, all right? So anyhow, finally they get Joe to get up out of the car or whatnot. She brings him into the house. Joe scurries to the house real quick. But in the meantime, off in the cut, we still see old boy, one of the hitmen who are still sitting in the range back in the back. He's noticing all of this, and he's sitting back and he's listening to the whole conversation, all right? So now he decides to get up out of the car, put that thing behind his back, and head towards the house, okay? So when we get back into the house, everybody's having this conversation. Angie's like, look, we need to call Touch. They said, no, don't call Touch. Don't call Touch. And she was like, listen, he's a police officer. He's going to, be able to convey to us how to handle this shit or whatnot. They was like, look, Joe is like, look, don't call, don't go through with that. And she was like, why I don't need to call Touch? And Joe pretty much tells her, like, Joe is in this shit as well. She was like, hold on, wait a minute. He's in what? He's in on this shit. Like, he's in with us. So she was like, well, how much does he know? They're like, everything, including Cathy. She knows everything. So we all in this shit together, all right? The money, the dead Russians, the Lamborghini, all of it, all right? I hope you got that, Angie. And she's like, ain't that about a blimp? And then old girl comes in. The one daggone time a white police officer can be a benefit to us, all right? Unfortunately, that's not the time, Cathy. So he was like, look, we had to. I mean, he was going to call it in and whoop, whoop, whoop. So then Angela's like, well, let me know your plan. Cathy is like, please let us know the plan that you guys had. So he was like, well, what we were going to do, we were going to weigh them down with some rocks and some things from the supply store. And Cathy was like, oh, hell, take some more merchandise from my store and shit. So anyhow, both of them say, Angie and Cathy is like, listen, y'all got a dumbass plan. So she was like, look, what y'all really need to do, and I'm talking about Cathy right now, the girl y'all probably should have had in this plan all along. But what she said is, y'all need to get some peanut butter, Skippy specifically, whatever y'all want to get, but get some peanut butter, cut up the bodies or whatnot, and, just spread them all out or whatnot all over the woods and stuff. And what'll happen, the animals love the peanut butter. They love the scent of the peanut butter, and they'll come in and they'll get rid of the bodies. And, ain't no evidence left. I was like, oh, hell. I said, Cathy is the one. So, of course, when she says all of that, they're looking at her because she was like, look, the bears, the coyotes, the whatevers, they come and get it, and they love that shit. So they was like, how in the hell you know about this? She was like, look, I watch it on my shows and shit. See, this is the one y'all need. This is... So anyhow, while they're in the midst of talking, old boy comes in inside of the garage. Now, I don't know if he broke into it or if it was already, left open or whatnot. So he goes in after hearing the conversation. He knew everything that was going down. So he goes to the back of the station wagon, opens up the back, and he sees his dead friend, his unalived friend, let me just say that, in the back of the car. So he was like, you're the Bachelor now, going back to the conversation that they had, all right? So then he goes to the van that belongs to Joe, all right? So he goes to that van, opens it up. That's where the bodies were, if you recall. So when he looks in that van, there's nothing in there. I was like, oh, he did move them. Now, we didn't know where he had moved them, though. So as the man leaves, we find out that he had placed the bodies up underneath the van. So I'm glad that he did that, because if he would have looked in there, he would have seen everything that had gone down. So anyhow, while they're going back inside of the house, Angie ain't going for it. She was like, look, we going to call the F, B, and the I. All right, that's who we going to call, because I don't want none of this shit on my head, and this is who y'all should have called to begin with. And Joe's like, why? Like, why? And then Cathy's like, oh, yeah, okay, it's good, because, they real good at, allowing black men to call after they done killed some white folks. So Angie then puts down the phone. All right? Joe's like, look, we can pay for Jenny's education. We can get you healthy because right now you're sick and not, all of that shit. And then they almost got her sold when Joe's friend had something to say. And he was like, no, that's not a good plan at all. So Cathy turns around and says, oh shit, now you got something to say? All this damn time, you ain't had shit to say, but all of a sudden when we start talking about $10 million and all this shit, now you finally got something to say? So then Leon gets his ass up and he comes over to Angela and embraces her and whatnot. And he was like, look, babe, as long as we got each other and we got each other in our lives, we're going to be good. We forget the $10 million. And she was like, what? He was like, as long as we got each other, we got all we need. And she was like, no, I ain't down for that. She said, first and foremost, I'm not happy with the life that we have. And he was like, huh? She was like, do you know what I do every day? She was like, I sit in that daggone hardware store, not using those words, and I try to come up with reasons not to unalive myself. Not only that, you didn't share the other shit that you be doing, looking on, the match websites, looking at dudes and whatnot on there, trying to see which ones, you you didn't share none of that. But anyhow, so old girl comes down now. What's her name? Jennifer comes down, and she's talking about all this talk about money, whoop, whoop, whoop. And she's saying, look, I'm getting ready to call the police because she's still in distraught about her boyfriend being killed. Not the fact that, hey, he was coming to kill all of y'all if he was not able to get the money. She's failed to remember any of that shit. But all of a sudden, she wants to call the police. You know what I'm saying? So Joe is like, hey, sweetheart, calm down. She's like, look, I'm not your sweetheart anymore. So she still feels some type of way around it. You know what I'm saying? So while she's in the midst of going back and forth with her daddy, she ain't grown. Look, you got somewhere to go, you can go. Like, I done told y'all before, I don't play like that with kids. Anyhow, while Jennifer is going off on her daddy, old boy comes out of the garage with that GUN. So he was like, hey, I need y'all to shut the hell up. Hey, my homie's in the back of the station wagon in the garage. I need to know who unalived him. So everybody looking around, and Leon's dumbass hops up in front of Cathy. And he was like, oh, I was the one that did it. So Cathy's looking confused as ever. So then he comes up and he's getting ready to unalive Leon. But he was like, don't worry about it. The rest of them will be with you as well, because remember what he said before. We're not leaving any witnesses. So right in the nick of time, guess who done woke up and done made himself available to get rid of the thieves, all right? Oh, here comes Touch. Well, he had a hell of a touch when he came off in there with that thing. So I'm glad to say that Touch was, available when he was available for this situation. Of course, he missed last night because he was out there partying like it was 1999. But anyhow, so they asked him, look, after telling him what their plan was, they was like, what the hell happened to your head? And he was like, oh, there was a situation that went down. There was a police call or whatnot, and somebody knocked me upside the head. Old girl Cathy ain't going for it. She said, hell, you smell like a distillery. So, nah, Cathy ain't going for that. She already know that something ain't right about Touch. And she was like, look, you're going to have to get your head in the game if you want to make this work. And he was like, hey, you don't have to worry about it, Cathy, all right? So from there, anyhow, Joe comes back in. He done put old boy, tape him down or whatnot. And they start to, decide what they're going to do with their plan or whatnot. So they all sit down at the table and they share what they're going to do. Anyhow, Leon and his wife, Cathy, get inside of the station wagon. And Cathy is like, look, she leans over to Leon and she's like, look, whenever somebody like that is asking who killed their friend, is getting ready to put a gun on me, you don't ever jump in front of me like that. I was like, what the hell? And then she tones that down in the car. I was like, she getting turned on by this. So anyhow, you see them in the garage. They got plastic everywhere. And they like, are we really about to do this? And everybody's like, yeah, I guess we have no choice. So anyhow, Leon, everybody, they're supposed to be going out. Everybody has a job duty. So Leon and others are supposed to go out and get peanut butter for this event that's about to go down. All right, so they told everybody to avoid cameras, by all means, pay with cash. Woo, woo, woo. All right, so anyhow, Leon's ass rolls up to this market that is getting ready to close, or is actually closed down. And, old boy is locking the door, and he was like, hey, can you help me out? And he was like, yeah, what do you need? And he was like, look, I'm looking for peanut butter or whatnot. And he says, yeah, that's what we're known for. But anyhow, if you look to the side, there's a damn camera right there, Joe. So avoiding cameras, that hasn't been your task at all, because you've already lost this game, bro. So anyhow, he's going to be the weakest link in this situation. I can already tell y'all. So anyhow, we see Joe driving a car to a destination, and we see the guys back at the garage. They getting everything together, and Cathy is there. She's enjoying herself, and Leon comes in with the peanut butter. Cathy gets up on him, putting that tongue on his ear and whatnot, and all of a sudden she was like, hey, take this thing. Take this right here and now. So of course Leon, which ain't had it in a while, obviously, because she ain't been giving it to him, but all of a sudden that thing is so they getting ready to do it right then and there. And of course, we just seen Joe on his destination back to the crib. And when he came in, he was like, well, y'all getting ready to was like, look, can we clean up? And yeah, man. So he was like, look, man, y'all need to get y'all head in the game. Y'all over here trying to get y'all F on and stuff like that. We need y'all to hold off a little bit. So anyhow, everybody's in there and they bring in the mobster. So he's still alive, but they bring him on a 2-wheel dolly, right? So Joe comes up to him and he's like, hey, tell me about my father and the work that he did for your boss. Old boy's like, give me the boy, you know. And he was like, you can have that little thing as long as you tell me what I want to know. Answer my damn question. Now we go upstairs. Old girl Jennifer sitting over here listening to soft tunes and looking at his pictures and whatnot on her phone of her boyfriend that is now unalived and whatnot. And she still is in this mourning period. So Angie comes in and she was like, how are you feeling? She's still blaming her father, Joe, like for this whole situation. And Angie has to pretty much break it down to her ass because she's constantly saying, he's the love of my life, I loved him. And Angie's like, shit, child, you only know him for 5 months. I was like, damn, I thought she knew longer than that, but 5 months, man, get the hell up out of here. So anyhow, she was like, look, you gonna get over this. And she was like, look, daddy didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do it. And Angie's like, yes, he did. If he didn't do what he was doing right then and there, you would have been gone as well. All right. So anyhow, we head back down to the garage where we see the guys down there, and they're pretty much telling old boy, like, you gonna be the one to chop your homies up on this table. We not doing that shit. He was like, yeah, right. So then they pulled them tools out on him. He was like, okay, I'll do it. So as soon as they start to let this brother loose, he goes and he pulls the GUN and he puts it on one of the homies. And I was like, what the hell are y'all doing? Why would you have the gun that close to him knowing that he's a trained assassin? I'm just saying, we are not using logic at all. So anyhow, he was like, look, I'm going to get rid of him. I'm going to take him out. And Touch is like, look, calm the hell down. You're going to be all right. And he said, I'll do it. So the Russian is asking to see the boy. He says, I just want to see the boy. So anyhow, they was like, look, you'll see the boy, but you're not going to see him in the state that you want to see him in. So anyhow, they bring the boy in, and he's, of course, unalived. So at that point, old boy is like, no, you killed him? Like, oh no. Like, he said, we all are unalive right now. So they was like, what the hell you mean? He was like, no, for real. He was like, look, I took an oath. Like, I took an oath that I would protect him, and if not, then my whole family would die. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, look, I pretty much was granted the opportunity to have a family even though I'm not supposed to. So he says the only way to avoid it is for me to, unalive myself publicly in front of everyone to see, to protect my family. I was like, hell no. So anyhow, he does a FaceTime with his family where he's talking to his wife and to his daughter, and, she sings him a little song or whatnot. I was like, oh, daggone. So anyhow, Joe takes him to his destination where he needs to go to make his final preparations to do what he needs to do. With that being said, the rest of the folks stay at the spot. And of course, Leon can't go through with the job. He falling out of shit. Can't saw a thing. So Touch, of course, is pretty much doing all the labor at this point. And, it is what it is. So anyhow, going on from there, we see Joe and the Russian. They're headed to this public place where he's going to unalive himself publicly, right? But before he does that, he tells him about his father. And he said, your father was a good dude. And he says, well, was my father's death an accident or was it something else? And the Russian says, no, I believe it was an accident. Didn't nobody kill him. You know what I'm saying? So obviously it was an accident. So he was like, if not, I would know. So anyhow, He goes out into the public and he does what he does. All right. So moving on from there, we see Leon. He's outside trying to get his breath back together, and pretty much when Joe goes back in, they got music bumping in the background. I was like, oh hell, they got the music. I think that was the Earth, Wind, and Fire back in the background, and Cathy done showed up, and she back there. She back there killing it, right? So when Joe walks in, he's like, what the hell is going on? So he cuts off the music, and they turn and look at him like, what the hell you touched that radio for? So he turns back on the music. They turn around and get back to work. So anyhow, they smear peanut butter on everything, put it in a bucket. Leon ass still outside like he can't do shit. So anyhow, they head out to the forest, and they're supposed to be disposing of, the parts or whatnot. So anyhow, Leon's ass, I told y'all from the get-go that he was the weakest link. I'm telling y'all, right here and now. This man, all he had to do was dispose of the parts. He drops, falls, all types of shit instead of doing what he was supposed to do. So he just tosses the part out there. Don't even know where it's going, nothing. He says, it's done, I'm done. He's too damn scary for this line of work. He should have never volunteered, shit. So anyhow, he jumps into the van. They almost shoot him because they thought he was somebody else. Anyhow, they was like, is everything good? He was like, yeah, I told y'all everything was good. So anyhow, Joe goes back home. Everybody goes back home or whatnot. The next day, Joe goes back to his father's spot and cleans up the office. So we see that going down. Everything is yet organized. Cathy goes back to the thing, cleans up the garage like she's a damn detective and shit with lights and all types of shit. She's cleaning everything down. I'm like, shit. So then we see Leon. He's cleaning off everything off his body or whatnot. They get back to the crib. Cathy got that lingerie on. Leon getting up out of the shower and shit. Cathy's sitting there waiting on him to come to the room. When he gets there, she ready to go. They go at it. I was like, shit, Cathy is truly turned on by this whole detective and this whole hiding parts and shit. She is totally turned on by this. Like, this might be something you could play on, Leon. Like, not even in real life, but, y'all could do this in your bedroom. Obviously, you don't found a new niche for what she... So anyhow, man, we see Touch doing what he typically does and, blowing his money real fast, all right? So anyhow, we get back and we see Joe and his wife, Angie, and he conveys to her that she was right about what she said earlier, that they are not these types of people. Like, they just don't get rid of people and do all of this stuff. Like, we're not that type of people. But he was like, it's done, it's over, and we're just going to focus on the rest of the plan, right? So she turns to him and she embraces him, right? So from there, we head on to the next day. Now we see these two guys out there on the golf course. And one of the guys knocks the ball, out of the distance, so they have to drive out there to the other end of the golf course to go get the ball, to go receive it, right, to see where it landed. So when they get to that destination, they then see a part sitting out there on the golf course, and they was like, shit, is that a head? And I was like, oh, hell no. Come on, Leon. I told y'all, man. And that's how it ended. So his only job was to get rid of that part right there. And unfortunately, you see where it ended. All right. So I'm not sure if Leon threw it out there or an animal brought it out there. But at the end of the day, that's what happened. So that was the end of the episode, man. Like I said before, this episode was good. You know what I'm saying? I would give it about an 8.5 rating for this episode. I felt like it was pretty good. And I'm interested to see how episode number 3 and 4 comes about because they're already uploaded. So I will be dropping those videos probably later on tonight, so you guys can, check out that review as well. As always, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss Shiznit that's going down. If you made it to this 30-minute mark, I appreciate you. Thank you guys for your support. Until next time, peace.